Only 12 days away from veteran players reporting to Packers training camp. Of course, all eyes will be on Aaron Rodgers to see whether he shows up. We've been talking about this for the last several months. Adam, what has to happen to get Aaron Rodgers to Green Bay for Packers camp?
Well, Dan, let's try to provide some insight as to where the situation is 12 days away from the time that the Packers are supposed to be starting training camp. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there. The Green Bay Packers don't want to trade him. And so we have a standoff that both sides now must figure out a way in which they can placate the other as best as they can. Aaron Rodgers has 3 years left on his contract. Maybe there's a way the Green Bay Packers can essentially find a way to void the last 2 years of that deal or create a structure in the contract that would pay Aaron Rodgers a balloon payment next offseason, whereby the Packers would have to trade him before then. But to think that Aaron Rodgers would show up in Green Bay at the start of training camp with nothing solved, with 3 years remaining on his contract, is, I think, naive at this point in time. And I think, to me, Aaron Rodgers' arrival, to a certain extent, is based upon his departure, because he's certainly not going to be in Green Bay very long. The question is, can the two sides figure out a way for him to be there this season? But beyond this season, which is in question as it is, he certainly doesn't figure to be there next season. And so now the question becomes, what does Green Bay do? What does Aaron Rodgers do? Each side has decisions to make. Each side has been pondering options. And again, 12 days to figure it out and get it done, Dan.
Man, listen, Aaron ain't going to play for Green Bay. I've been saying that. I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to be shocked if he shows up for training camp or even games during the season. The second part of this, man, is we've had these conversations about Aaron Rodgers and what type of things Green Bay can do. And, Schefter, you make a great point. Like, negotiate the departure may be the answer. But I believe that negotiating that departure before this season kicks off is the answer. And then second, and the most important thing, to spin this forward a little bit, because Aaron Rodgers, we've talked ad nauseum, what about Jordan Love? Like, how does Green Bay operate now? Like, you need to be operating. Let me give you some advice, Green Bay. You need to be operating as if Jordan Love going to be your starter. And these guys on this team need to be rallying around Jordan Love as he gets ready to prepare to be the starter. Yes, great to think about Aaron Rodgers coming back and everybody in their feelings, and it's a great thing to have the league MVP come back and play at a very high level. But there's a lot of things transpiring with that particular situation. The Green Bay brass, especially Matt LaFleur, better be locked in on Jordan Love as they starter and preparing this kid to have as much success as he possibly can have.
You know, Swagoo and Adam, you confuse me every other day because you come with great information all the time. So I'll go back and forth on whether or not I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come in or not. But I got to say right now, I just don't know. And if I think back to when this all took place on draft day, it's like, okay, he's saying he doesn't want to play for the Green Bay Packers anymore. No matter what they try and solve, there's two people that's still in the building. There's Brian Gutekunst along with Mark Murphy. They're both in the building. There's no problems with Matt LaFleur and his teammates. There's no problems economically. He's going to get money no matter where he lands. The two people in the building aren't going anywhere. They're there to stay. So as long as they're there in the building, it's hard for me to believe that a player who hasn't said it publicly, but I think we all know enough people and enough signs that's out there saying he doesn't want to play for them, would all of a sudden change his mind in 12 days based on getting out of there 12 months from now. It's just hard for me to believe, because I know me as a person, if I say I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do it. I'm good. And I think Aaron Rodgers is the same way.
Well, and I would say to that, Key, I think it would be an upset if Aaron Rodgers were at the start of training camp. I think there's a chance he'll miss all of the summer. I think there's a chance he could report before the start of the season. I think there's a chance he could miss the whole season. We don't know exactly how dug in he is, and we don't know what's going to come out of the talks between he and the Packers. But what we do know is this. Those talks have been going on throughout the course of the offseason. they've solved nothing so far. And maybe because we're getting closer to camp, maybe there'll be some clarity. And the Green Bay Packers have said, hey, we're not trading him. And you guys are saying, well, it's time to turn to Jordan Love. Well, if it's time to turn to Jordan Love and you could salvage the Aaron Rodgers situation, then why would you not consider trading him if you could get back players that would help you win right now? Blue chip players from a team. And I'm sure there are teams out there. Denver called on draft night and was told we're not interested in dealing Aaron Rodgers. And we'll see whether the Packers have the same stance with the Broncos or any other team throughout the course of the summer.
Worth noting, of course, contract adjustments with the Packers. Maybe not so simple. They got big-time salary cap problems, not just this year, but also projected to have them next year. Devontae Adams not signed for next year. Packers have a lot to work out. Complicated situation. Another complicated quarterback situation is the one going on with Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. We still don't know what will happen there. We know that Watson is entangled in several lawsuits by former massage therapists. Prior to that, he had made it clear that he didn't want to play for the Texans anymore. That situation obviously remains in limbo for a number of reasons. So, Adam, what can you tell us about how the Watson situation might play out?
Boy, it's frustrating not to have absolute concrete answers on such key quarterback questions going to camp. But that's where we are today, Dan, a couple of weeks out of camp. I think a lot of people have suggested, well, maybe the commissioner will put Deshaun Watson on the commissioner exempt list, except if you go and look at all the people that he's placed on the commissioner exempt list, and there have been 9 of them, there have all been charges brought against 8 of the 9. So it's rare that the NFL would put a player on that list without there being charges. And Deshaun Watson has maintained his innocence all along, and he doesn't believe that he's done wrong here. Now, there are accusations from 20-plus women about what he allegedly has done. And we don't know what is real and what is not, other than it's unsettled. So from a legal standpoint, I'm not smart enough to tell you how that's going to play out. From a football standpoint, it certainly seems like the Houston Texans have moved on physically and mentally. They went and gave a big contract to Tyrod Taylor. They went and paid guaranteed money to Jeff Driscoll, another quarterback. They used their top pick in the draft, which was a mid-round draft pick, on a quarterback. And so they have brought in 3 different quarterbacks. If they thought Deshaun Watson was going to be there, do you think they would have brought in 3 quarterbacks? No. But I think the sense around the league is they don't want to give him away until his value is restored. And so right now there are too many questions. We don't know when those questions will be cleared up. Maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe next season. Whenever that is, I think there is the expectation that the Texans will be moving on from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and of course, benefits an acquiring team to get him this year because the salary this year is actually low, $10.5 million before it starts to balloon in 2022 and beyond. So if things do clear up on the legal side, I guess it's possible we could see action on Watson pretty quickly. No action on Russell Wilson in spite of an offseason that began with a lot of drama out there in Seattle. Wilson now claims that he and Coach Pete Carroll are closer than ever. Marcus Spears doesn't buy it. Stick around to see what kind of